And I want to welcome you back into the show. This is The Prowl with Kev and Ace here on HPUR The Sound. More than happy to be joined by Mr. Matt Loughlin, radio play-by-play announcer of the New Jersey Devils, joining Kev and I here on the show. Mr. Loughlin, thanks so much, sir, for coming on the show with us this morning.
Kevin, Austin, it's my pleasure. Please call me Matt.
Will do, Matt. It's my mom wouldn't like me calling people other than sir, but I will make an exception this one time, Matt.
Well, no, I appreciate it, and your mom did good, but professionally we'll go by Matt. How does that sound?
Thank you so much, Matt. I'll roll with that for today. So Kev's got our first question of the.
All right, so Mr. Loughlin, we know you've been with the Devils, or Matt, we know you've been with the Devils since 2006, and this will be your first lockout as the play-by-play announcer on the radio, but you worked with the Devils before and you were there in 2004. How is this lockout similar to the one in 2004, and how does it differ as well?
Well, I think it's similar in that the owners are looking to change. Yeah, that's the obvious. They're looking to change the agreement with the players. They're trying to squeeze more profit for themselves. And they feel that the players, based on past experience, will eventually come to the terms that the owners want. There may be some concessions here or there, and the owners in the past have shown, the most recent one at any rate, the willingness to let this go as long as need be for them to get an agreement. I think what's different this time around is, one, there was a great deal of unity on the players' part early on last time. It eventually started to erode, and that led to a mess and led to the year lockout. I think the unity on the player side is much stronger. I think they are asking the owners to do more than they have done in the past. I think they recognize the players, that they'll have to make some adjustments, but that the owners they are asking to do the same, help themselves rather than ask the players to do so. So there seems to be a little more, I think, depth of the strength on the player side, and that makes it a little different this time around.
Matt, as you talk about the players, we've already had players such as Alex Ovechkin and then your own Ilya Kovalchuk from the Devils leave to go play overseas in places like Switzerland and Russia. And these guys are leaving the NHL and unabashedly so. What, if anything, does that worry the owners, and what should that worry NHL faithful and followers here in the U.S., seeing that their favorite players are now going overseas and playing and seem to be having a really good time doing so?
Yeah. Outside the risk of injury, I don't think there's much concern on either the Players Association or the owners' part. I think if you look at the players who have gone back to play either in the Russian League or the Czech League, many of them are natives of that country, so there's some nationalism involved. The others, though, I kind of question a little bit. For a Canadian player, particularly one who is, while not getting paid or won't get paid once that first paycheck is due, is making an awful lot of money and has been told for at least a year that you can expect a lockout, the duration of which is unknown, but prepare for it. But then to go to Switzerland or to Finland or to Sweden and take somebody's job, a guy who has no chance of making the National Hockey League, is playing in Europe simply because he does want to make a buck, has reasonable skill, but not National Hockey League skill, and can play in a highly competitive, highly skilled league, but again, 2 notches below the NHL, to go take somebody's job. For Rick Nash to do that, or any of the guys to do that, for how long it'll be, I don't know, but you're not going to make that much money to begin with. Relative to what you could make in the National Hockey League. And I just think it's wrong. I don't think the players really care. I think as unified as they may be, there's always a sense among players that it's kind of every man for himself. It's my career, so go for it if you want. I just don't get the justification for maybe playing for a month, grabbing pocket change relative to what you're scheduled to make, and then really taking somebody else's job who kind of needs that money. And just wants to further his career and play for as long as he can. I just don't get that.
Yeah, we're talking with Matt Loughlin here on HPUR The Sound, The Prowl with Kev and Ace. Matt, you talked about how you think it's a little bit different than the lockout in 2004, and there also are some similarities. But can you talk about what the importance of the NHL already canceling the preseason games through September 30th?
Yeah, I think that's just really kind of a PR move. The fans want their hockey, and I get it, but I don't think they want necessarily exhibition hockey. I do realize the need to play a competitive situation, to see mostly the bottom part of your roster, that 6th, 7th, 8th defenseman, that 12th, 13th, 11th forward, to see who will separate itself in a competitive environment. But when you realize that, like other sports, in the exhibition games, you don't get a full roster. The game is not nearly as competitive. I think you look at the attendance. The arenas are not nearly filled. So, I think it's a public relations move, but I don't know how many people actually are missing the games. What's missing, though, is the build-up. It's the publicity. It's the writing stories in the paper, reporting on the Internet, talking about it on radio, some television updates. That buzz building toward the start, that's really what's missing. But canceling the games themselves, I think it's more of a public relations move, just to kind of have the NHL ratchet up the heat a little bit more.
Matt, this is the Devils squad that came off a Stanley Cup appearance last year. How much do you see it affecting already the buzz around the city there in New Jersey? Because this is a squad that's got to feel like they can get back to that spot, and then to know that there's a work stoppage and that fans are going to have to wait that much longer. What kind of negative effects do you see coming with that off a Stanley Cup run?
Yeah, I think that's what's the most disappointing part from my perspective regarding the Devils. From a general perspective, I'm disappointed that I'm not heading to practice today or getting ready for a preseason game, despite the fact that there's not a great interest in it. We all need to get back up to speed. So that's what's disappointing to me, that I'm not preparing for the start of the season and I'm not watching the best players in the world perform. And for the Devils to build on the momentum that they had gained, not making the playoffs the year before, but coming back and getting to a Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final was terrific. I presume the Devils are able to trade in on some of that with an increase in sales. That's been all the reports, that there's been a much more of an interest and an increase in season tickets. But now it's like getting ready for the big dance, and the car doesn't arrive, and there is no dance. So no car to pick you up. So I that's what's disappointing. The momentum is blunted. It's blunted in Los Angeles, which joined the team in the first wave of joined the league rather, in the first wave of expansion, and they finally win a Stanley Cup, and they've got nowhere to go. They had the parade, and the interest was as high as it's ever been in the second largest market in America, and it goes nowhere. Those are the things that are disappointing, and that's from a micro standpoint, that's the Devils' concern too. Great build-up, could have been a great off-season preparing for what hopefully is another great run, and all dressed up and nowhere to go.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about how the lockout kind of has halted that, like you said, momentum that the league had? I mean, you look at the TV ratings. I know you don't work in TV, but just looking at the TV ratings for the NHL playoffs last year, they were astronomically better than they have been in the past. And this lockout seems to be, like you said, halting that momentum.
Well, and I think that's what puzzles the players a bit, too. When you hear the commissioner state that not only during the Stanley Cup, but subsequently, all the metrics, that's the big term, all the metrics are positive for the league. The revenue is up at a record level. The viewership is up. The internet interest is up. They signed this long-term deal with NBC, along with its cable affiliate, doing a great job in spreading the gospel of the sport. They found a partnership there that enjoys the sport, that wants to promote it, that is invested in it. They've seen increases in local television. They've seen an increase in youth hockey. And if you look at the recent drafts, more and more kids coming from not only American states, U.S. states, but states you would have never thought before: California, Tennessee, Florida, Texas. The sport is being spread. The seeds have been spread, and now they're sowing what they've reaped. And now the commissioner, speaking to the owners, comes out and says, "Yeah, but the plan stinks." Well, the plan seems to have worked to a great deal. Why can't we figure out a way just to make it work for the players and the owners? Because everything else seems to be working. So, that's a negative. That being said, I do go back to the NBA lockout of just a season ago. They got 60. Once they settled, they got 66 games in. They had a terrific run. Yeah, there were bumps along the way because of so many games squeezed into a short period of time. injuries were up. But in the end, they had a terrific championship. Miami beats Oklahoma City, and no one at that point was talking about a bad product or the stench of the lockout. But I think the NHL is hoping the same, that once we come to an agreement, and hopefully there will be one shortly, the fans will forget, the players will forget, the media will forget, and everyone will focus on the on-ice product. And it's been very good the last 8 to 10 years. It continues to get better, and that's what everyone will remember and talk about, and not this business decision.
Matt Loughlin joining Kev and Ace here on the Prowl and HPR, the Sound Radio. And we want to shift gears a little bit if we can, Matt, and talk a little bit about your broadcasting career. You've been in this business since 1979. What has your run been like, some of your highs and lows, and just really what has been the ways that you've dealt with this amazing run, and now you're with a Stanley Cup team there in New Jersey?
Well, I've been very lucky and very blessed. I went to Seton Hall University, and I had planned to become an accountant. That was my major when I walked on the campus. Switched eventually to marketing, but this was where I was headed. Always enjoyed sports, watching and listening. And they have an on-campus radio station, WSOU, that allows students to get on and do what they want, news, music, sports, whatever, even behind the scenes, engineering. I don't like what you guys are doing. You walked across the campus, I'm sure at some point said, hey, how do I get involved? And that's what I did at the end of my freshman year. And I walked in and said, I think this kind of is a fit here, but I'm not sure. Graciously, they allowed me to do some work, and from there I just ran with it. So it wasn't a plan. It wasn't something that out of high school I thought that I would be doing, but there was a perfect, at least I think so, perfect marriage there, and I absolutely took the ball and ran with it. So they gave me the opportunity, and knock on wood, I've never had to use my official degree. I've never stopped working in this business. There were some moments early on when I was working for relative peanuts. I mean, my first job paid me $7,200 a year. Now, I know you're talking in the dark ages when you said I started at 79, but $7,200 a year I was making working in my first radio job. So even back then, that wasn't a heck of a lot of money. People coming out of college were making 2.5 times that as a starting salary. So I was struggling there financially, but I was doing absolutely what I wanted to do, and I was learning the business, and I was allowed to make my mistakes at a lower level and learn from some great people. And, I've been very fortunate to be able to work in this business ever since in one form or another. I wanted to start in radio. That's my love. I was able to do that for many years. I transitioned to television, did that for the majority of the time, quite frankly. But now back in my first love, radio, and having a blast. So, I wouldn't change a thing looking back. I've done basketball and hockey and covered the New York Mets for a decade. So I've been very, very fortunate to be able to do this in my home area for as long as I've been able to.
Matt, before we let you go, one last question. So you've been in the business for 33 years now. What has been the biggest highlight of your career? Is there one game or one thing that you've done that has really stood out in your mind?
Well, I've been fortunate in one way or the other to be a part of all of the Devils Stanley Cup finals, the 3 championships and the 2 losses. The first one was very special in 1995. I was really just kind of working on a fill-in basis there. I wasn't a part of the full-time Devils staff, but it was just a blast. And to be in that locker room with this team that had been disrespected for so long, winning the championship, beating an original 6 team in Detroit and sweeping them at that was just very special, and putting New Jersey on the sports map, that was awfully special. But I grew up a Mets fan, and all of the championships have been special, and all of the runs to the finals have been special, but that one in particular. But from a sports standpoint, I love baseball, love the New York Mets. It's been a rough couple of years, I know, fellas.
Yeah, I'll share that sentiment with you.
To have the chance, to have the opportunity to cover them for 10 years and be a part of the original, interleague play in the Subway Series, but more than that, actually going to the Subway Series in 2001 when they played the New York Yankees, and seeing, rather in 2000, and seeing the run to the playoffs under Bobby Valentine, being part of the return of baseball in 2001 after 9/11, there were some special moments there. So, again, I look back at a lot of great opportunities to meet and speak with great players and coaches and be a part of some key moments. And, you know, for a kid who was just hoping to be able to get along, was happy to take $7,200 in order to do that, to get where I've been has been very special, very rewarding, and, you know, I'm very blessed.
Matt, it's obviously that you love what you do, and we want to thank you for coming on the program. We'd love to have you back on when, hopefully, when the NHL is back in full swing, and will give us a breakdown of the season. Matt Loughlin, thank you so much for coming on the show, sir.
Hey, fellas, anytime, no problem, and continued success to you guys, huh?
Thank you
very much.
Thank you so much, Matt. This is Kev and Ace here on the Prowl on HPR The Sound. We'll be right back to close up the show with you here on HP Radio.